Hey everyone, it's me again, back again for part 2 of my Zbrush. It's not really a tutorial, I'm just showing you guys around. And now I'm going to actually show you guys the progress for the alien guy that I did. So, I'm going to actually find the folder. Okay, this is how this guy started off. These are Z-spheres. To create Z-spheres, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a new document and not save this. To create the Z-spheres, you go into the same tools menu and you'll see it here, Z-sphere. And you have it in the quick pick maybe. Z-sphere is here. Draw it down just like you would the sphere that we did before. You hit the edit and you want to go do the symmetry thing too with the X. Bring the symmetry to the middle. Click and drag. And out comes this strange bulbous shape. Now, it takes a little bit of fiddling, but you can do things, on either side. You can hit the control key, and the control allows you to drag out. And then, you click on the ends again, and you can drag out again. So with this, you can create, strange shapes and all sorts of fun stuff. After that, when you've gotten the shape that you want to create an adaptive skin. It's right over here. This is the menu for the adaptive skin. It says make adaptive skin here. Let me show you what I did with the alien guy. Nope, don't save that. The alien guy, when I did the adaptive skin for him, this is what it looked like. Alright. So it's very bulbous. There's not really much going on with him. So, I shaped up the face a little bit because when you turn it to the adaptive skin, it pretty much takes on all the round silhouettes of all the Z-spheres that are there. The only thing I wish I'd done is his tail a little bit better because it kind of seems segmented off like this. Let me open up another file that's probably further along. So this is I think the adaptive skin. I don't think, no, Dynamesh isn't on this. This is still Polymesh 3D, and I basically tried to just pull out a little bit of the detail of, where I wanted the muscle masses and stuff. I try not to go into too much detail here. So you can see already how the face started off. I just tried to get the basic sort of landmarks in just to see where I was going to build from there. And I was going to do horns here, but then I decided not to later on. So let's go to the next one. This was 3. I'm going to open up 4. And I'm going to go F. There we go. Now this is a Dynamesh, and you can see I'm putting a little bit more detail into him and really starting to pull out his facial features. It's very strange. It's hard to imagine when you see the final thing, to remember it started off looking like this. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of tweaking, but eventually you get there. F. Nope, cancel. I don't want projection master. So that's the front and the back. Okay, so we're gonna also open up. No. This was 4. I'm gonna open up 5. You'll notice that I've saved my files in increments. That is something that I systematically do with everything that I work on. I've had instances where I've saved files and sometimes they get corrupted and I can't go back, or I end up doing something and I can't go back, so that is why I save in increments like that. Still a little bit more work on the face. This was a bit of a learning. This was a learning curve for me, because what I did was I went back and forth a lot because I had to try and figure out the pipeline. Like I know the pipeline when I go into Maya because Maya is the main thing that I use. But doing it in this was a whole lot more complicated for me. Here you can see a little bit more detail. I've put more detail into the face, and you can see that I'm fleshing out the area where the eyes are. I put in the geometry. I put in the sphere for the eyes because it really helps to figure out how the eyelids are going to be formed, because they really have to kind of fit around the eyeball geometry. So you can see, whoops, where do you go? Okay, here we go. Remember, hit F to frame it, so that's how that works. And yeah, I use the transpose master eventually. Let me go to, this is 8. Let me go to 10. It takes a long time to open because you can see that the polygon count is, before it was 1,000,000 and now it is 8.75 million polygons. And here you can see him, you know, further along, and he has most of his props in the scene. So this is where I was before I started posing him up. So you can see I have most of the muscles down. I have, you know, not detail is there, but not too much detail. Because the thing is, I really wanted to work on him asymmetrically. There's something, when you work on him like this in a T-pose and you're working on it symmetrically, you know, it starts getting a little bit complicated. You know, it's a little bit weird. You start getting these exact mirror images, and that's not how the human body really is, or a body. You know, we're not symmetrical, really. We're asymmetrical. You know, one side of our face is not an exact mirror of the other side. And we're so used to doing this, you know, with the symmetry on, that it starts looking not very realistic. So I'm just gonna go right to the most recent one, which is this one. I used the transpose master to pose him up with all of the eye geometry and the horns and everything. That's probably something that I would do later. Now this is the file that I took the screenshot of that I showed you guys on Animation Nation. So you can see I've set him up, I've posed him, and here he is from the back. I realized I didn't send any screenshots from the back. So I should have probably put those as well, but this is what he looks like from the back. You can see all the folding here and this. I have some repairs to do here and there because of the transpose master and how it sort of sets things up. But like this line in the middle of the back, I want to set it up this way. I wonder if I can actually do it now. Let me see. I want to go to the subtool menu. I want to select this guy to be able to sculpt him. And let me see if there's any way that I can do this. I want to move elastic, I think. And I want to make this big enough so I can pull it along. So I want to kind of fix this so it's a little bit more. Let me pull down the diameter of this a little bit. Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't have to be exactly the same on either side, because that really does make things more realistic, because that is how bodies actually are. They're not symmetrical. So I kind of want to make this a little bit smaller and also drag this. I'm recording. I also want to drag this. So I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that, but I have, so you can see I kind of fixed that midline right here. It doesn't look like it just stopped and went over. But that's kind of how I use the tools. There's still more to fix, so let me just save this. Yes, I want to save. Saving project file in progress. It takes a while, so we're going to leave that. So here and there you see some deformations from the transpose master. This is something I have to fix. You know, there's little errors here and there. This has to be fixed. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs fixing, but I'm really looking forward to doing this. One of the reasons I wanted to get into ZBrush is that I really wanted to get into anatomy, and I think this is a good way of doing it, because with ZBrush you're able to sculpt with so much more detail than you're able to sculpt in, like, say, Maya. You can't really model this much detail, you know, with tiny wrinkles and pores and all those kinds of things, you know, the tendons and sinews and all these things. It's very interesting to work with it this way. So since I have him up, I'm going to show you the subtool menu over here. Like I said, ZBrush has a strange language. Every item that is put in here is called a tool. But when you put them together, it's basically like you have one tool and you have a subtool and a subtool and a subtool. This is the main tool here, which is him. His body geometry is the main tool in here, and everything else becomes like a, well, it is technically a subtool. Everything is a subtool. But it's kind of like layered in like this, which kind of makes it neat, because I can select him and I can sculpt him without bothering and disturbing any of the other pieces of geometry. His eyes are separate. Oh, I can turn off his main geometry with this eye thing here. So let's remove him. That's actually a good way of looking at this. You can see there's the eyes are separate, the horns are separate, the base is made up of two sections that are separate. There's the stone, and then there is the staff. Right, so I have all of these things basically separated, which, you know, but when you have this much accessories, to move them all, you have to use the transpose master, which is in the plugin section here. You've got the transpose master, and what you do is T-pose mesh. So let's say he's in the position he's in now, and I'd like to move him around. I go to the T-pose mesh, and basically it will take all of these subtools and make everything into one object, right? Then I can mask off areas and move those areas individually. So it's not like you're making a rig, you're actually sculpting, you're actually making a sculpture, you know. So that's what's really interesting about this. I could probably fix, I see something else I can fix with the move elastic tool. This. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So there, I have a lot of fixing to do on him. So yeah, anatomy is something that's really important, and it's something that I think a lot of people are afraid of doing anatomy for one reason or the other. Whether it's that they think anatomy is too complicated, or, you know, they're just afraid of dealing with naked human bodies or just naked bodies in general. You know, people seem to be scared. A lot of people seem more comfortable doing hard surface stuff like cars and buildings and things like that. And, you know, that's great, but we can't have an entire workforce of people that are only doing cars and buildings. You know, we need people to do more anatomical stuff like this, because, you know, we need it. This is what's going to make stuff look real. I mean, I would like to do something like this. Can you imagine we made like a Jamaican movie and this guy ends up being like, I don't know, some River Mama's boyfriend or something. I don't know, something. It's a, you know, you can make them more realistic this way. So yeah, this is just a brief look at, you know, working on this guy, and I would go more into detail into the pipeline when I get back to sculpting him and fixing some of the geometry in here. I might record that as well, so you guys can kind of see the process. The thing that's very difficult about recording a tutorial or watching a tutorial for ZBrush is that you're watching someone sculpt something, but the thing that you are not able to get from watching a tutorial on someone sculpting something is the feel or the pressure or the way they are controlling the strokes to create what they're doing. that is something that you cannot get from a tutorial, and that is something that you are only going to get from doing practice. I would suggest that if you want to start sculpting like this, Sculptress is a great way to start. You don't necessarily need all of these fancy tools that Zbrush has in here in order to sculpt like this. I should say this is my first sculpt in Zbrush, but it's not my first time sculpting. I always sculpt in Mudbox, and that's how I've done my sculpting previously, so I'm not new to sculpting. But this is my first ZBrush sculpt. In Mudbox, it's very straightforward. There's none of these extra tools and all this fanciness. You bring a model in, you subdivide it, you start drawing with the different brushes that are provided for you. And it's a bit more stripped down than this. This has a whole lot more it's a whole lot more complex, and a lot, it gives you more options to do different things, to do more things, right? But you don't need all of this to start to learn to sculpt. Because I've been doing it in Mudbox all this time, it's not hard for me to do it in here. And I used to use ZBrush a very long time ago. I don't even remember the version ZBrush that I used, but I know that Dynamesh did not exist when I was doing this way back when. And the other thing was, I was using ZBrush and I didn't even have a Wacom pen. I would strongly suggest that if you're going to get into sculpting, you get yourself a pressure sensitive pen tablet sort of a thing. You don't need to get yourself an expensive Cintiq. You can get yourself a Wacom Intuos or a Bamboo. Either of those will work just fine. And like I said, you want to start practicing, your forms and anatomy and understanding how everything is. Understanding anatomy, let me go into a little bit of maybe a breakdown of something that could give you guys tips. Like the face. When you are drawing a face, I'm going to turn on perspective mode here. There's a perspective mode here that kind of changes the way this looks. Anyway, when you're drawing a face on a piece of paper, you're drawing on a flat surface. And what you're doing is that you are trying to, with shading and highlighting and stuff, you're convincing the viewer that the thing that they're looking at has mass and volume. But the thing is, you never really have to worry about the person seeing that drawing from the side. So it doesn't really matter. However, when you're doing something in 3D, you're kind of drawing from all angles. So the face has to look like a face and register as a face with good proportions and all sorts of things from the front, from the side, from the top. Let me just try and center this, from the top and also from the bottom. I'm just going to do something real quick. I'm going to undo that, and what that's going to do is now when I rotate, it's going to rotate around that point. So that's kind of the complexity of making a face, because if you look at the face from the top, it's not flat. Faces aren't flat. They have a curvature to them. The face actually curves back. But when you look at it this way, you're looking at it, it looks very flat because, like, say for example where these two horns are on his face. They look like they're a little bit more forward, but when you really look at him this way, they actually slant back very far. And you kind of have to understand this as a volume in three-dimensional space. Another thing to look at is his torso and this area here, which is his abdomen. You have to remember that there's a rib cage under here, and you're kind of building up all of this around that rib cage structure. And then the abdomen is another structure, but that is encased in muscles, because the rib cage would stop. This is kind of weird because technically he has 4 arms, so his anatomy is a little bit different. His rib cage would stop around here, But he has 4 arms, so I don't know if his ribcage stops down here, which would mean that all of this wouldn't make any sense. But anyway, I'm going off of like actual human anatomy. The ribcage would come down to about here. And you have to think about that all the way around. You know, you're building around a structure that is inside. And this is something that you have to be thinking about while you're building something, and it's interesting and it's challenging, and I think that's it. I really like the challenge of it, and I hope that you guys will pick up and, you know, jump in on the challenge as well, because this really is something that I'm excited about, and I hope that you guys will be as excited about it as well. If you have any questions, you know, send them to me on Facebook or wherever. Just, you know, I'll try to do my best to see if I can answer them. Hopefully I'll either write back, or if I think it's an interesting enough topic, I'll actually do a video on it. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know I rambled on a little bit randomly, but I think that that's that for now. I'm not into the whole tutorial thing. But yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.